Hey families, it's time for some more lab work. So again, we're going to be working with flies. Now you've already transferred your adult flies from your stocks that you got into the Redi jars, right? Which have 2 vials of fly food, one that's closed with a paper towel and one that is just open to the jar. But hopefully you kept hold of these. And you can probably see that there's more larvae, that there's more pupa, and pretty soon there should be some more adult flies. I don't know if you can see, there's a couple kind of zooming around the top there, which is good because what we're gonna do, I'd say probably for the next week or so, is try to get virgin female flies. So I need to, the first thing we're going to do is anesthetize them because if you don't, they tend to fly away. It's kind of their job. So here's what you're going to need. I recommend, and you're welcome to kind of take or leave this advice, I found it helpful, is to get 2 kind of nesting containers, put a little bit of water in one of them, put the other kind of nested, and put the whole thing in the freezer. Ta-da! So the water on the bottom kind of keeps it cold longer. You could just put a container in the freezer. It'll be cold and it'll probably keep the flies from getting up right away, but this just, you can use it for a little longer. So now what we're gonna do is tap the flies into here and take a good look at them with the lenses you built. Oh, you thought they were just for optics. No, we're actually going to use the things we built. So if you've still got your double convex lenses that you built, if they've got water, if they've got alcohol, if they've got nail polish remover, whatever, it should do the job. And you can test that. Like I just put it over this note that I wrote to myself and it definitely zooms in, like makes the letters bigger. So it's a good test before you start working with flies. Anyway, so there are 2 basic ways easily at your disposal that you can use to anesthetize flies. One of them is to just put them in the fridge for about an hour. And you might just check on them every once in a while and kind of flick them because they might still kind of stick at the top here. But if you flick them and they've been in the cold long enough, they'll probably stay down rather than crawl back up. And what I recommend is that you set aside 2 or 3 of your vials, and you're gonna put the same ones in the fridge every time you sort the flies. And just make a note of, I don't know if you can see, I wrote which days and roughly the amount of time I put them in the fridge. There's actually a couple ways you could run that experiment. One is to just kind of check them every 5 minutes and see how long it takes for them to like not crawl back up immediately. Or the other is to just put them in, set a timer for an hour and come back and see if they're still crawling back up right away. Either way, take your notes. I promise that's going to be really helpful. Okay, so that's a really easy way to anesthetize the flies. The other way is with your fly anaesthetizer. Now, I'm going to send you a little bit, but honestly, you can make this stuff at home. And in fact, it was kind of a fun experiment that Gracie and I did where we had all different parameters. And then we just wrote down, we had these empty, we call them falcon tubes, like centrifuge tubes. They go up to like roughly a 50 ml volume and they're graduated. So we just kind of measured how high the bubbles went up and how long the bubbles kept evolving. And so we tried with baking soda alone, with citric acid alone, with the 2 combined, and then of course those 2 don't bubble on their own. You need to add a liquid, so you can try water, I have to say, we found that vinegar worked the best in terms of bubble height and time of evolution, but it smells bad. So we ended up trying a couple of other things like soda, and I'm not going to show you the label unless this soda company agrees to be a sponsor. So anyway, you've got your anesthetic, which really is just 1 part citric acid and 2 parts baking soda. I use like half a teaspoon of baking soda and like a 1/4 teaspoon of citric acid. I wouldn't do much more than that because otherwise it'll just like do the fake volcano thing that everyone knows about, or kind of like soda and Mentos. Anyway, so you got your soda or pop if you're in the Midwest, and you maybe just like half a teaspoon or so. And you can see it's evolving bubbles, and the soda itself has CO2, which is what anesthetizes the flies. So I just give them a little bit of a tap so they're not right on top of the foam, and then just stack them on like that. It usually takes about 2 minutes for the CO2 that's evolving here. And I'm sorry, I'm going a little out of order. I haven't proved that this is actually CO2, but I will prove that it actually anesthetizes the flies. It doesn't hurt them. They're gonna wake up just fine. But once they are kind of like, they'll kind of fall down, take a nap. And then if you tap them onto like a room temperature container, they'll wake up pretty readily. When I was in the phy lab working between college and graduate school, we had like a little pad with, it was kind of like cheesecloth, and so you'd run CO2 into the pad and it would just keep a little bit of CO2 going, and the flies would be on top of the pad and underneath a dissecting microscope. So you could, they wouldn't rouse until you took them off the pad and put them back in the vial. And they're still kind of flailing around there. Yeah, that's again why I like using the cold container, because then they kind of settle down a little easier. Just want to as it contacts the warmer air, of course, moisture from the air will condense on the surface, and flies don't like being immersed in water. So I like to keep a paper towel or something around to wipe up the excess moisture. Yeah, they're getting, as you can see, they're getting pretty tired. So I'll take them off the anesthetic, pull this out, keep it kind of tilted down, and all right, there's only a couple of flies in there. So I'm going to try to angle my camera with the lens so you can actually see what I'm talking about. All right, so I got a couple of flies on my working surface, and you can see they're not really twitching. And I'm going to try to angle the lens so you can see them a little bit magnified. And both of these are males, and you can see that because they're a little smaller than the females. Believe me, you'll get plenty of practice in seeing which is which. But you can see at the end of the fly thorax, the very back end of the fly, it's dark, and you can even kind of see sort of the darker sort of circle that looks like it's male genitalia. So these are not what we want, and honestly, we can just like scoop them up with the paper towel and smear them around and get rid of them, and send them to fly heaven. All right, here we've got 2 flies, and the one on the left is a very young male. You can see that its wings are still kind of curled up, and it's kind of bigger and paler, but you can see at the end it's got that sort of black circular bit that's the male genitalia. This is a female fly, and I'll flip it over with my brush so you can see that a little bit. I mean, honestly, the easiest way to sex a fly is by flipping them over. Let's see, let me line up the the lens there. So you can see that the end of her thorax is kind of pointier. She's generally a little bigger, and there's no sort of black dot at the end of her thorax because she doesn't have male genitalia. I don't know if this is a virgin female or if she's mated already, because if she has, it means that I can't control the genetics of her cross. So because of that, I'm gonna let these two go. All right, so I've got my phone centered on 3 flies. So one in the top right is a male. You can see it's got like that dark sort of circle at the end of its thorax. The one at the bottom, sort of middle, is female. It's got like, it's a little bit bigger. It's got a pointier thorax at the end, and there's no like dark spot. Like the back of the back of the thorax under the wings will start to get dark, but if you flip it over, right, there's no like dark circle. And this is what you're looking for. This over here is a female virgin fly. Its wings have unfurled, you can see, but it's bigger, you know, kind of swollen and white, like it just came out of the pupa. So that's what you're looking for. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your brush and you're going to kind of pick it up with the bristles. I do not have enough hands to show that. But you're going to put it into a new vial like this. And you'll see that the females will get darker over time, but there's nothing but girls in there, so there you don't see any eggs or larvae, certainly no pupa, which is good, because over the next few days we're going to try to get, I'd say, at least 4 or 5, and 10 is even better. If you get any males in there, you will eventually know, but no worries. We've got backups of all different flies. So like I said, you're going to try to get 5 virgins over the next week or so of each of the 5 different strains. And you're going to keep them in this special separate vial. All right, so my final recommendation for you with regard to sorting the flies is that once the flies hatch, the females aren't really receptive to mating for the first 8 to 12 hours. So if you, you know, sort flies and just discard all of the adult flies from your vials, not your vials where you're saving the virgins, but like your original vials, and you come back after school, maybe 8 hours later or something, you can sort them again. And even if the females don't look like they've just hatched, you might be okay. The only issue with that is that you have to be darn sure that you got rid of all the adult flies in the morning if you're gonna save all the females in the afternoon. I'm not comfortable doing that, so I just discard, you know, all the adults that I'm not really sure have just hatched and are female. But I leave it to your discretion, really. In fact, you may want to have a couple of extra vials, and I can leave a fly food recipe if you want to make some of your own fly food and just have 2 virgin vials, one where you're absolutely sure that they're virgins and one where, you know, you were pretty sure you got rid of all the adults in the morning and then keep all the females in the afternoon. Now, the other thing I will say is that you will probably notice that these flies all look a little different. So take a good look. Yeah, so in terms of assignment, other than, you know, sorting through your flies, let's see. To support Dr. Mommy and Gracie developing these experiments and to purchase class materials, please visit us at patreon.com/drmommy.